So welcome back to Grounded, Mindfulness, Meditation, Self-Exploration. Today's video, what I'm going to be talking about is love and understanding what love is. But before I get into that video, I'm just going to describe what I'm doing over at the Home of Self-Transformation. So we run regular classes, one on a Thursday, which is a masterclass. It's all about understanding mind and emotions. And then we run a Reiki meditation class on the Sunday where we use the practices of mindfulness and Reiki to begin to bring a state of peace and calmness with him. So if you're interested in anything that's to do with understanding ourselves, understanding mindfulness, meditation, go check it out, Home of Self-Transformation. But today's video, if you've lasted this long, you're about to get a little gold nugget, because I'm detailed to you exactly what's going on with the human experience. Now, most of us have no idea what consciousness is or what God is, however you wish to describe it. I don't really like to give it a name, but let's call it love, because love is to pull something to yourself. Love is to take something as yourself. And so consciousness, we could say, is a state of love, because it's all inclusive, it's all accepting. But most of us are disconnected from our own love. We're disconnected from this source. We're so disconnected from this source, from this realization, from our love, that we're completely unaware of it. We're unconscious to it. And I'm going to tell you why we're unconscious to it. Because most human beings are operating from 3 levels. Now, this very top level is the level that most of us are aware of. It's what's driving our behavior. It's our mind, it's our thoughts, it's our future hoping, our future wishing. And it's where we reflect on the past. But up on this top floor, it has a lot of momentum. You'll find that your mind has a lot of momentum, that your day-to-day living has a lot of momentum, which means there's a lot of focus around soothing and comforting. So if you look at your life, and one of the reasons why your life isn't accelerated, living like an incredible life aligned with constant expansion, is because we're in this rut. And this rut, which feels like stagnation, which feels like we're not going anywhere in our lives, is caused by the fact that what we're doing on this top floor is self-soothing. So if we can see this in our lives, we can begin to understand that on the very surface of our lives, we are soothing ourselves. We are trying to comfort ourselves. Now, we do this through many ways. We can do this through distraction, which is the reason why a lot of us can't get off the phones, or the reason why we can sit and binge watch TV all day. Because we get in this way of distracting ourselves. And if we're not distracting ourselves through TVs or through gadgets or through computer games, then we distract ourselves through whether that's food or addiction or sex or keeping ourselves busy. The reason we do all of this is because we're in a state of self-soothing. We're in a state of trying to make ourselves feel comfortable. And that's because as you come down a level, there's this middle ground. And this middle ground is all unconscious pain, unconscious discomfort. It's here where all of our wounds are, that we're not aware of, because what we're aware of is what we're doing on a daily basis. What we're aware of is the top floor, which is actually being driven by this uncomfortable middle ground, this uncomfortable level within us, where we unconsciously hold a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, a lot of emotional suppression. So all the time we're up on this top floor, we're not aware of actually what's driving this behaviour. And that's why there's so much momentum in being this particular way. But being in this particular way, you will notice in your life, is repetitive. You're living repetitive cycles. You're reliving repetitive patterns. You're reliving the same kind of life. And that's because what we need to do is we need to see this. We need to see the top level in where we're living. We need to see the nature of it is to soothe and to comfort ourselves. And then ask, what am I soothing? What am I comforting? And then that comes down. That brings us down, and that brings us down to this middle ground where we find all of our trauma, all of our unconscious beliefs, all of the suppressed emotion about not feeling good enough, the fact that we might hate ourselves, the fact that we're disconnected, the fact that we wasn't loved how we needed to be loved, the fact that we wasn't given the attention, the fact that we lost self-love for ourselves, we stopped caring for ourselves. Because beneath this middle ground of emotional turbulence and emotional suffering is the love. So you was born in as pure love, pure conscious love. You was connected to the source. But then as you come into this environment where we're so disconnected from each other, we're so under the illusion of separation and isolation, that when we come in, as children, we're met with conditions. Then first conditions are like parents' conditions. Now you think, as parents, me being a parent myself, when we suppress a lot of trauma, and then we have a child that comes in, that child triggers the shit out of that trauma. A child will always trigger the wounds within the mother or the father. So what do? Because we're not conscious and we're trying to self-soothe, we take it out on the child. We suppress the child. Now the child begins to build that middle ground of emotional pain. Now how does a child deal with emotional pain? There's only one way a child can deal with emotional pain, and that's switch off from emotional pain. How does a child do that? They begin to build ways in which they can comfort and self-soothe themselves. Now this, as a child, when we look at children using imagination, they're actually projecting themselves away from where they are now. It's a coping mechanism. When children are always imagining and playing in this kind of way, they're coping. They're coping with the reality that they're facing of this middle ground. So the coping mechanisms we find in our adult lives are the same coping mechanisms we're developing in our childhood. And in our adult lives, we're wondering why we're going around in circles, why our life ain't changed. Because we haven't come down into this middle ground where we can heal these wounds and pass back down into pure love for yourself, pure connection. This is something that I've witnessed and seen and understood in my own life over the last 4 years of awakening. The first level where I'm completely unaware of what's going on inside of me. And I look and it was all pure self-soothing, pure bodybuilding, drugs, addiction, and numb everything out. But my life wasn't going anywhere, feeling stuck, feeling like my life hasn't really taken off. And then I go through my awakening, boom. As I go through my awakening, I start to realise underneath all of this, what's driving all this behaviour is actually like pure self-rejection. Pure, just a deep hurt of myself, where when I've got deeper into these wounds, I realised that I don't love myself. That these are actual beliefs. This is how you switch off from feeling your love. When you start telling yourself that you are not worthy of love. When you begin to tell yourself that you don't love yourself. You don't like yourself. Because you've been shamed, or you've been judged, or your parents have been critical of you. We start to formulate these beliefs. We begin to formulate this painful sense of self. These wounds, this trauma. So if we really want to connect, if we really want to find our life purpose, if we want to find love, if we want to find ourselves lighting up and lighting everybody else up and lighting the world up, we have to do this work. And it starts by just becoming aware of what you're doing on the surface level, becoming aware of the distractions, becoming aware of the way you're comforting yourself, becoming aware of the way you're soothing yourself. Start with the very, very surface level of awareness. And as you begin to become aware of the surface level, then what actually happens is you begin to accept these parts and work with yourself on a surface level. Then what's driving the surface action begins to reveal itself to you. And then you come down and then you have to start working with these parts. This is where healing starts. This is where you begin to cry. This is where you begin to release emotion. This is where you begin to release trauma. And as you release it more and more and more, this other layer comes, this self-love layer. And the point of the human experience is to go through the trauma, cut off from the love, but then awaken through the trauma and realize the love that you are. That's the secret to life. That's the holy grail of this experience. The fact that this reality serves to cut you off. Cutting you off is painful, but cutting you off serves for the purpose of reconnection. Reconnection to your love, reconnection to who you are, reconnection to your divinity. And then it's time to shine. And every single one of us is a star in the sky. But we have to illuminate ourselves. We have to light ourselves up. And that's the reason why I created Home of Self-Transformation. To help put my story out there, to help put my information, what I've known, what I've come to realise, and also what Lauren has come to realise through her own awakening. And to put that information out there to have catalysts for other people. Because when you get down into the love, you speak a different language. You hit people on a different level. And that's infectious. because you light up the person in the depths, in the core of their being. And that's power, and that's purpose, and that's love, and that's to bring somebody to you, and that's connection. Till next one, much love.